And welcome to race 3 of the 2013 GP2 Championship. I'm Will Buxton, alongside me Jerome D'Ambrosio. And Jerome, last year this race track was the domain of one man, Davide Valsecchi, and so far this weekend has been the domain of one man. That man is Fabio Lima, quickest by a second in practice, quickest by a second in qualifying. It's going to take something special to beat him today.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a second is a pretty big margin. So let's see what's going to happen in the race. But if he can keep that pace, then for sure he's going to be able to pull away, and it's going to be more of a fight for a second position rather than for the win. But that's not done. He still has to do it, and that's not going to be easy. It
really isn't, and it's a top 10 that is filled with talent and is also filled with two new names to the GP2 series. One name that's not new to you, though, is that of Fabio Lima, who starts from pole position. Alongside him is Marcus Ericsson. The Dams finally back on form. Felipe Nasr starts third, having taken a podium last time out in Malaysia. And then it's Stefano Colletti, championship leader. Tom Dillman, who won the last race here in Bahrain in 2012, starts fifth. Alongside him, Stefan Riquelme. Alexander Rossi in the Caterham, his GP2 series debut, starts seventh. Adrian Quaife-Hobbs, what a great performance from him in the MP Motorsports car, in eighth. Sam Bird is a disappointed ninth, while Robin Frins starts 10th on his debut in the GP2 series for Hilmer Motorsport. Then it's Trummer and Palmer, Chicotto and Abt, Evans and Chacon. The ART boys completely lost at the moment as to why they don't have the pace. Leal, Gervaisi, Binder, Rosenzweig, Collado and Berton, Varhaug and Harrianto. And on the final row of the grid, Daniel De Jong starts 25th. Sergio Candemassas starts 26th, having been excluded from qualifying for forcing Kevin Chacon off track not once, but twice.
Yeah, I think that's just not right. You know, I think we had that already in Malaysia, and they have to be much tougher because that can't happen. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You shouldn't allow that kind of behavior, and even a stronger penalty could be applied, I think, in this case, because it's not once, it's twice. The guy waits for the other driver after the end of the qualifying just to push him off track another time, and it's just not acceptable at this level of motorsport.
I think Ed Straw of Autosport summed it up very well when he wrote an article after the Malaysian race, in which he said that the stewards at that point had an opportunity to draw a line in the sand and tell these guys what is and is not acceptable, and that by allowing Johnny Chicotto to race in Malaysia, they had said forcing another driver off track is, well, it's bad, but it's not the worst thing you can do. And perhaps if they'd given a harsher penalty then, it would have really laid down a marker. And the fact that the next weekend someone's pulling off the same thing shows perhaps Ed Straw had a good point in that article. But it is what it is, and at least we have consistency between the application of the rule from one weekend to the next, even if it's not as strong as some people would like to see. Now that's interesting. Dillman is starting this race on the hard compound tyre, and he's going to have a job on his hands to make that strategy work for him. Full fuel in the middle of the pack. That's a very interesting strategy from those guys. Surely the better option would be to start on those soft tyres, really blast through them in the early laps, and then change onto the hard for the majority of the race.
Yeah, maybe Dillman's trying to just change the rear or something like that, and so he's gonna try to lose less time in the pit stop. Might be the best racing tyre as well. So we'll see how that turns out to be.
Alexander Rossi, P7, what a great introduction to the GP2 series he has had. Hasn't stepped in the car since post-season testing last year in November. Jumped straight in and was in the top 5 in practice. P7, having got caught out in traffic in qualifying, but a great performance from him on a track that he knows from GP2 Asia. And Adrian Quaife-Hobbs, a wonderful performance from him once again in P8. And I think anybody in that top 10 could take the win today if it wasn't for Fabio Lima. But anybody in the top 10 could really start to compete for that P2 if Lima is as fast as we think he might be.
It's always been over a lap, so clearly let's see what's going to happen. What's going to happen over the race distance is very different. We got to make these tires last. It happens that sometimes the cars are quick over one lap because that's the way they use the tires. But I think let's not give him the win already. Let's see what's going to happen.
Absolutely, he's quick over a lap. But if that pace ultimately leads to him chewing through his tyres, then that pace will ultimately count for nothing. So the guys lead off, quite a few towards the back on the harder tyres. Now, is that Marcus Ericsson? Oh, it is. Now, can he get that thing going before everyone passes him, or is he going to fall to the back of the field? Our P2 man. Oh, and that's a huge disappointment for him.
That's a big blow to his race. He's not. They're going to have to. I think he's going to start from the pits.
Yeah, absolutely. They're rolling him back into the pit lane. What a massive disappointment for Marcus Ericsson. And of course, starting on the back now on those softer tyres, he's going to have to make that work in the early laps. And all that hard work yesterday, getting himself back up onto the front row where we're used to seeing that Dams car, and all undone in an incident. And of course, that now gives Stefano Coletti, championship leader, a clear run. Well, apart from Nasser and Lima third and first, but certainly on his side of the grid, it gives him a clear view down to the inside of turn 1.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit easier for him. Let's see what the right-hand side of the grid can do, because it's normally a bit dirtier here.
So for the likes of Coletti, Riquelme, Quaife, Hobbs, Frins, Palmer and out, that dirty side of the track
can be a bigger difference because of the track not being really used during the year. You have quite a lot of dust offline, and that can make a start quite tricky.
Track temperature down at 41. It has been higher this weekend, but cloud cover over the track, bringing that temperature to 41 degrees, air temp at 33. The Dams guys pushing Ericsson down to the end of the pit lane, where he will wait at the red light. And when the whole grid has passed, he will be able to start, having been shown the green lights. Of course, that moves everybody else behind him up a place, which is almost the entire field, other than Fabio Lima. But his grid spot will remain empty, giving Coletti that clear view of the first corner. Mitch Evans down in P15. He also disappointed with his qualifying run, but thinks he's got things sorted out for the race. Had a quick chat with him this afternoon. Impressive performance from him in Malaysia on his debut weekend, carrying food poisoning and still pulling out a podium. Also, keep an eye on Jolyon Palmer. That man was a fabulous overtaker in Malaysia. Absolutely wonderful racecraft from Jolyon. Once again, he's not up at the sharp end in qualifying. His teammate Felipe Nasr starts third. He starts down in 12th with some overtaking to do, but my word, did he ever prove that he was a man capable of doing that in Malaysia. As to this man, Sam Bird, out of position again. He was second in practice, only 9th in qualifying. He's starting on the softs, so the two Russian time drivers on very different strategies. His teammate Tom Dillman starting this race on the hards. There was our P2 man, Marcus Ericsson, at the end of the pit lane as Fabio Lima brings the GP2 series to the grid. And on the back row, it will be Sergio Canamassas and Daniel de Jong. Then Rio Haryanto and Paul Varhout, 22nd Berton, and 21st James Collado with that penalty carried over from Malaysia. Then Rosenzweig and Binder, Giovese and Leal, Chacon, Evans, App, Chicotto, Palmer and Trum. The top 10 will be rookie Frins in 10th, Bird in 9th. Adrian Quaife Hobbs will start from 8th place. Alexander Rossi on his GP2 debut starts 7th. Stefan Riquelme starts 6th. Then it's Tom Dillman, race winner here, in 5th. Championship leader Stefano Coletti 4th. Felipe Nasr starts 3rd. Marcus Ericsson should have been 2nd. His grid spot remains empty. And Fabio Lima will start from pole position. The fastest man of the weekend so far. Will he carry that into today's race? We don't have long to find out as the green flag flies at the back of the field and the lights illuminate above the grid of the 2013 GP3 Series, GP2 Series, and in Bahrain we are racing. And a much better start for Lima. Coletti already onto the back of him, and look at Bird up into 3rd place already. Sam Bird into 3rd, and the championship rivals go wheel to wheel through there. Lima holding on to the lead from Coletti. Bird up into 3rd. Nasr 4th and Alexander Rossi 5th. A great start from him, then Quaife Hobbs. But Lima it is who's been able to keep the lead from Stefano Coletti, coming down now into one of the good overtaking points on the track. Riding on board with Coletti now gets alongside pole sitter Fabio Lima. Has to back out of it though. You can't get two cars through that corner very easily, but Coletti is gunning for him in these opening corners. Knows full well that given the pace of Lima on the weekend so far, if he doesn't make that move in the early running, Lima could just run away and hide. Has to try and get past him, so it's Lima from Coletti, Bird from Nasr, from Rossi, Palmer, Quaife, Hobbs. And Trummer, it looks like he's in trouble. Dropping way back through the field, but Lima has been able to keep the lead from Coletti. Berg third, Nasr, Rossi, Palmer, and a great start from Palmer as well. As the Adax boys looking to make up position, and Marcus Ericsson, half a lap around, has managed to catch up with the rest of the field. But Lima doing everything he had to do there to keep Stefano Coletti behind him, and Coletti's going to be gutted not to have got past.
Yeah, Coletti is very aggressive now. We know Coletti is very efficient in the opening laps. Let's see what Lima's pace will look like in the race, because that's very different. In the middle sector, half a second already.
And Berton, and that's James Collado, who's already got wing damage at the end of this first lap, as Rossi defends from Palmer. Edging him onto the dirty part of the track, Jolyon Palmer. Demon overtaker of Malaysia is through on the American. It's a good clean move from Palmer, and it's another position up into 5th place from 12th on the grid. What a first lap from Jolyon Palmer, but Rossi looking to take that advantage straight back. Palmer will have the inside line. Rossi will have the advantageous line, but Palmer keeps that position in as Daniel de Jong brings the MP Motorsport car into the pits. Very slow. But a nice battle shaping up then, and a great first lap from Palmer. 7 places.
Amazing from Palmer. Great first lap from Bird as well. Very aggressive at the start. He had contact, I believe, with Nasr as well, but all went well. And Frames as well, not in P10, so first start in GP2, always quite tricky these cars to get started, so that's not bad as well.
Lima just starting to stretch out, you feel, starting to lay down that advantage that he had yesterday. He's a 10th to the good over Coletti in Sector 1. We will keep an eye on him, obviously, over the rest of this lap.
Same lap time in Sector 2, and the Bird actually gaining 2/10 on them, so it's so far doesn't look the same difference in pace than we could see yesterday, but that's obviously very early in the race, so let's see what's going to happen there.
Start of the replay, great start from Lima, bit too much wheel spin from Nasr. Terrible start from Trummer.
And Bird was actually not very quick to move off the line, but then he had very little wheel spin. And
look at that, like a bullet at that point. You're right, such little wheel spin.
Little contact there with Nasr.
Rossi just sticks his nose in underneath Quaife Hobbs. Nearly taking 4th place from Felipe Nasr. On board with Mitch Evans, his teammate bogging down ahead. Good clean start from Mitch Evans, lovely stuff. The top 10 all scrabbling for position down into turn 1. Leal around the outside. Ooh, lucky to avoid contact there. It's so tight through those first couple of corners. Now on board with Bird. Oh, wallop. That's the kind of start you dream of, isn't it, Jerome?
Quite amazing, yes. Really wasn't aggressive, so let the clutch go not too quickly, and fantastic start.
So there's de Jong out already. One that can only assume with damage picked up on that first lap. But it's Lima who leads this race by 1.1 seconds from Stefano Coletti. Sam Bird is 3rd, and Felipe Nasr and Jolyon Palmer. Alexander Rossi sits 6th, Adrian Quaife Hobbs is 7th. Riquelme is 8th, Dillman is 9th, Leal is 10th. They're the point scorers as things currently stand. And Alexander Rossi is fastest of all through Sector 1 and on a personal best through Sector 2 in clean air, as he's dropped back just a touch from the ever-advancing Jolyon Palmer. Fastest lap for Lima, and it's only a couple of tenths quicker than Coletti, so not that pace advantage that we've seen so far this weekend, and thank goodness for that, or it really would be game over.
still enough to pull away a little bit. So it's all about to see also if he's really pushing hard right now, if he's just trying to get a little gap and save the tires. So obviously we won't know that until further in the race.
As we get a replay here.
Great move from Frans.
Yeah.
Very, very aggressive driver.
Through into 10th. Now, is it Frins or Frins? Because half people tell me it's Frins, and half people say it's Frins. I've been told that the Dutch pronunciation is Frins.
Whatever, it's the same guy, isn't it?
There is Adrian Quay-Fobbs. Quite a big lock-up on the front left, and running those hard tyres, he's got to be careful of that. And this is a replay of Canamassas and Collado. Canamassas aggressively up the inside of Collado, forcing him over onto the rumble strips, and Collado having none of that. That's ballsy stuff from Collado to keep his foot stuck in there, being edged off.
Knowing who's next to him, but it's that's a good move from Collado. You can't give away that kind of a fight, because then you'll always see that's the guy who's lifting off. So you have to make your point, and especially to a guy probably like that who's very aggressive, over the limit. You have to show him that you keep your foot in.
Meanwhile, Marcus Ericsson is making a couple of places up. He's now into P24 with Jake Rosenzweig ahead of him, but he's got a broken front wing. So frustrations and aggression already of Marcus Ericsson showing through. As Chacon goes for Johnny Cecotto. And holds that position into turn 1. Cecotto trying to go around the outside of him. Cecotto with a new helmet design this weekend. And Chacon now having to defend from the Venezuelan. He'll have to go the long way around, but Chacon keeps it stuck in the white and blue trident. But on the exit, Cecotto, all too easy for him to get around him there. Chacon just trying to be too defensive, and that's ultimately what cost him. So car 14 and 3 under investigation, 14 another driver off track. Canamassas and Collado. Now, if Canamassas is under investigation for forcing another driver off track, having been excluded from qualifying for deliberately forcing another driver off track, one does wonder. But Chacon, another mistake, a lock-up on the front left. He's run wide. That's allowed the ARTs through, looking in his mirrors so that he doesn't come back on track in a dangerous fashion. That's good to see. At the very least, Daniel Abt should get past him quite easily.
I don't remember seeing ART so much in trouble in the beginning of a season than this year for years and years now.
They've never been great here in Bahrain, but you're right, to see them struggle this much, particularly with the likes of Collado, who we know is good on his tyres, with the likes of Abt, who we know is fast but takes a while to adjust to a new championship. It is surprising to see them this far off the pace.
Yeah, just as you said, and Collado's been and that's Leal
and
Frins
getting back on it again. Frins and Leal, this battle for 10th and 11th. Leal alongside the GP2 rookie, the World Series champion, to take that position back. It's a great move from Julian Leal, and Giovese getting in on the action as well, but getting a bit too excited and just losing a little bit through turn 2.
Does that mean that the hard compound is already a little bit faster than the soft one? That's maybe a little bit too premature to say, but for sure it's and that's a little contact between
Evans and Binder. Yeah, the other question, Jerome, of course, is when do we hit the cliff on these softs? They're used softs or unused hards, so let's have a look on Evans, trying to go at the inside of Binder.
I'm not sure what was he what was he trying to do there. I mean, he was really far and nowhere near next to the guys, so a bit of a silly move, and happily didn't cost anything to both of the drivers.
I think optimistic. So that is the Hilmer Motorsport car of Paul Verhoeven, and his season starting in not exactly the most positive of fashions. His new teammate Robin Frins meanwhile sits just outside the points in 11th in that great battle with Julian Leal. Let's not forget, of course, Connor Daly scored some points last time out in that car. So Just showing you what is achievable. The young American who's over in IndyCar this weekend will be taking part in the Indy 500 alongside his GP3 campaign for ART. And in as early as possible. Stefan Rakelmi is the first of the leaders to jump off the softs. So before that cliff even hits, Stefan Rakelmi lasts just 6 laps.
That means that they really believe that the hard tire can really go really far, so must not be a lot of degradation on those.
Yeah, and let's not forget, you know, oh, hello, did we have somebody fall over there? Or no, we're having a quick changeover of tyres, so that means Ericsson's going to come in on the next lap, so, or even at the end of this lap. Drive-through penalty for Canan Massas for forcing another driver off the track. That is exactly the same, deliberately forcing a driver off track, as what he was thrown out of qualifying for. And
some people must never learn, I guess.
But how, you know, unless they get a serious penalty, how are they ever going to learn? If you allow them to race knowing that they've done something that deliberate.
Now, what he did yesterday was obviously very wrong. Now, there obviously doesn't leave much room to Collado, but
it's a different situation.
It's a different situation, and we've seen that many times. I mean, it wasn't very aggressive. They had no contact at all, and let's not be too hard on that move.
No. But I guess from Carlin, and a good outlap from Rossi has seen him take that position back. And Nasr is pulling in Sam Bird. It won't be long before these guys have to jump in and change from these softs. I think Bird is starting to struggle through sector 2. Let's have a look at the difference in time. Only a 10th. But they both are over half a second off the pace being set by Lima now through that second sector. And you can see the rubber flying off the tyres. Will Bird pull it in, struggling, understeering like hell to get through that final corner. Yeah, he's going to bring it in, is he? Yes. They're both in. Really see Bird start to struggle with that understeer, and Nasr, I mean, when we say he's on his rear wing, he's almost hooked onto that rear wing.
Very important to really push on the pit entry and the pit exit. This is where you can gain actually seconds in a race, so crucial moments.
Oh no, and there is a delay on the front right for Sam Bird, and a further delay. Now it's on. Not an ideal pit stop at all. We have a look further down the pit lane to see the Carlin boys, and I think there's Nasr at the front. He's had a desperately slow stop as well. He gets released and he's out behind Bird, so an even slower stop from Nasr when you consider that. And look at this, Rossi and Palmer, and maybe Rakelmi even will jump past Sam Bird, and this is all for position at the front of this race. Bird was in a podium position, but with a slow stop for him and an even slower stop for Nasr, Rossi now takes the advantage and should be, when the pit stops play out, in what theoretically would be a podium position. But there is a long way to go. 23 laps remain here in Bahrain, and here's a replay of Nasr's stop. It was a front right issue for Sam Bird.
He positions well, actually a bit
rear right and rear left. And they had to... Oh, that was a very tentative release.
Yeah, well, actually, they had to wait for Bird. They didn't want to make an unsafe release, so...
Yeah. Here we go. There's the problem with that front right for Bird. So both drivers losing positions due to slow stops.
And Ericsson, 44.9, which is nearly 3 seconds quicker than Lima.
On the hards, and Lima and Coletti now both pit. First and second place in this race. They're both in the pits to change from the softs to the hards. And here they are. No pressure, guys. This is only for the race win. Oh, that's smooth. That's smooth. Great stop from Racing Engineering. On. And it's a good stop from Rapax.
Good stuff from Rapax. This wasn't really smooth actually with the Racing Engineering. I don't know if you saw, but there was a pipe that was going, an air pipe that was actually flying around. Luckily, it seemed that no mechanic was hurt.
And Rossi now right on the back of Coletti. This for what could be P2 in this race. Alexander Rossi on the warmer rubber as the ADAX teammates do battle. We don't want to see that though, they're way out of order. Rossi and Coletti. The ADAX boys fighting over a bit of track. There's the man who was leading this race. Now there, Coletti and Rossi. Rossi's got to make this lap work for him. A lock-up from Coletti. You can tell he's under pressure on those colder tyres. He's got to try and look after them. They've got to last 22 laps, and Rossi putting him under massive pressure. Rossi only too aware that he's got advantage for one lap. That's about it. Good overtaking opportunity towards the end of this straight. Rossi has a look. Dinks back in. And on board now, looking back from Stefano Coletti to Alexander Rossi behind. This is the championship leader. Very impressive run from Rossi with no testing in the car. Didn't even have a seat until yesterday. Now these guys, we're talking about the fight for the lead. Of course, they are out of position at the moment, having taken their compulsory pit stop. As the drivers ahead start to take their pit stops, all will play out. As Nasser and Bird, side by side, the two drivers who lost out the most in the pit stops. Bird having to defend from the Carlin driver who goes one way, then the next. And starts to edge Bird. And that is a pretty nice move. Bird staying very calm. Lovely move from Felipe Nasr.
Great move, and behind there's Frines also, who's making lots of time. Very quick at the moment. Now very aggressive also in the beginning of the race with the tires, and then struggled a little bit more on the soft earlier than other drivers. So let's see if he can keep those tires alive. It's a new class, new tires, new car for him to learn and to handle. So that's never easy.
Incident involving car number 20 under investigation, I'm hearing. Speeding in the pit lane, that is Berton. Trident boys not doing as well as one might expect. Both Chacon and Berton. So here we have the leader of the race is Adrian Quaife-Hobbs, who started on the harder compound tyre. We expect him to run longer. Tom Dillman, who started on the hard, is second. There we are. Julian Leal is third. These are the top three in the race as it stands, but they need to build up as large a gap as possible over Fabio Lima. The gap at the moment is 26.2 seconds for the pit delta to be able to come in and, one would imagine, just change the rears.
That's most likely the case. Try to gain some time on the pit stop, and that can make quite a big difference.
I do wonder if any of those guys could risk running and doing the last 10 laps on soft in order to keep a set of hards for tomorrow's race. Trying to run tomorrow's race on one set of soft is going to be nigh on impossible.
They could, of course. Now that's Nasser putting Riquelme under pressure. A much better exit there, so we'll probably overtake him now.
That's a great move from Felipe Nasr. We've been saying for some time how excited we were about the prospect of watching Nasr race and fight through the field, and this is great. And Bird now alongside Riquelme, and he'll have that advantage into the right. Lovely stuff from Bird. It's not easy to pass there. You've got to be absolutely 150% sure you're going to make that move.
Yeah, you have to be committed. Now he also knows that Riquelme is not the hardest racer, that's for sure. He can be quick, but we've seen in the past that in the opening laps of the race and in the fight, he's often the guy that lifts off first.
As you say, if you build up that reputation, it comes back to haunt you. So this is Fabio Lima taking Jake Rosenzweig. One would imagine he takes Jake Rosenzweig. Fairly easy for Fabio Lima. And the one thing that will affect Fabio Lima is slower cars ahead of him. He needs to try and scythe past them as fast as possible so that he doesn't lose time, A, to the advancing Stefano Coletti behind him, and B to the likes of Quaife, Hobbs, Dillman and Leal, as Coletti now gets past Rosenzweig. Rossi has got past Rosenzweig and now has to defend from his countryman, and Palmer just takes full advantage of that. I'm impressed with Palmer this year. Really measured, mature, calm racing from him. And Rossi will be under a bag of pressure from Palmer for this whole race, knowing that Palmer has a year and then some experience on these tracks, with this car, on these tyres. And it is Rossi's first weekend on the Pirelli rubber, having to use 2 compounds with this car. A lot to take on board for a rookie driver in their first weekend.
It's interesting to look at the lap times, because Lima and Coletti are quick, obviously, but not extremely quick, not pushing too hard. And you've got the guys behind, like Palmer's a bit quicker at the moment, Frins has been quicker. And it's interesting, I think, that probably Lima and Coletti are actually not going 100% at the moment, just trying to save the tires, and the guy behind that are in the fights have enough force to push, and that's where actually it's going to at one point be difficult for them, because they will use up the tires quite quickly.
Yeah, the leaders are all in the 47s. You're right, the likes of Lima and Coletti running 45s, 46s. But the top 3 are through for another lap. We're getting closer, believe it or not, to half-race distance, not even at half-race distance yet. None of the top 8 have made a pit stop. Indeed, the top 9 running on track are yet to stop. Top placed man is Fabio Lima, 10th, that has made a stop. So out of those not to stop, all of them on that harder compound tyre. Big hole in the nose of Daniel Apt's car. Contact clearly early on for him. Just 2 retirees, Daniel de Jong and Paul Verhaug. Lima has cut the gap back to Quaife Hobbs, 10th to first, to 21.8 seconds. It was at 26. And that, of course, is critical for when the likes of Quaife Hobbs, Dillman, Leal come in for their pit stops, to see whether or not they will maintain the lead they currently hold.
I think maintaining the lead will not be possible, but it's going to be about where they're going to fall back in the pack. If they're going to be able to fight for the points, and important as well for the reverse grid pole position. Seeing
that they're losing approximately a second a lap at the moment to the likes of your Rossis, Palmers, Nazars, Bird, they might find themselves out of that top 8. They really might. But that's the risk. That is the risk you run, starting the race on the harder compound, on the heavy fuel, particularly these guys who are starting in that competitive pack. And look at the front right.
There's a nice fight now between Frins and Riquelme. It would be nice actually to go and see it. 0.1 second between the 2 drivers, so that would be interesting.
Look at the tyres. Oh, and there we are. Leal and Dillman. Leal gets past for P2 on track. But Dillman back alongside him will have the inside for the quick flicks. Oh, and has to brake. That's brave stuff from Leal.
That's exactly the same position that we've seen Riquelme before with
Bird.
With Bird, and completely do 2 different approach.
One up the inside, one around the outside. That was brave stuff from Leal. Makes that position, then holds onto it. Leal up to second, Dillman down to third. Leal clearly pushing before jumping into the pits. At what point that arrives, well, only the team know. But you can see behind them, there's Giovese and Binder. Behind them, Evans, Cecotto and Apt. Behind them, Collado and Lima. Fabio Lima is pulling this gap back. 19.6 now is the gap between Adrian Quaife Hobbs and Fabio Lima. So there's no way that Quaife Hobbs is going to keep the lead of this when he comes in. Not a chance. is ever so tricky to keep life in these tyres around this circuit. Turn 1, the right-hander, easy to lock up there, easy to lock up into the turn 8. And of course, all of the loading on the front left coming into turn 10, that really tricky left-hander coming onto that back straight.
Yeah, you really, let's see, replay of
this Bird on Rosenzweig, punches straight through. It's not an easy track, is this, Jerome?
It's not very technical. You got to be strong on the brakes. Now that's Lima Collado. That was a bit difficult to leave for Collado as he hasn't pitted yet.
Just being sensible, isn't it? Not fighting too much.
It's no point. That's not his race. His race is further back, and so he's going to try to be as quick as possible, not lose time until he's pit stop, and then fight with the guys that where he's going to come at.
But there's our race leader, Adrian Quaife-Hobbs. Last time round, Leal and Dillman, their lap times very slow because they had such a big fight with each other. But Quaife-Hobbs is doing an impressive job so far today. He hasn't made any mistakes and he's sticking to the program. Where that brings him out, though, in the ultimate battle for points will depend on how much time he can hold on and not lose to the guys who've already made their stops. We sit on board with Stefano Colletti now. And given that that's James Collado ahead, you can see how much time he's actually managed to pull back on Lima. You know, there was about 4 seconds at the pit stop. Just 2 now. Fighting through the traffic. Colletti doing a better job of getting through the traffic than is Fabio Lima. There's one driver that they won't have to worry about. Daniel Abt comes into the pits as the Venezuela GP Lazarus cars have a look at each other. Binder going for Giovese.
1.3 now between Lima and Colletti. But I think that's more due to traffic, as you said. So far I wouldn't be too worried for Lima, who seemed to have in clean air the edge over Colletti.
So the Venezuela boys, nose to tail here, and Mitch Evans staring them both down. Up the inside of Giovese. Through the tricky turn 9 and into 10. Has to back out of it. And his tyres looking pretty good, Nick, you got to say.
I think it's difficult this track to see it like that because it's not the degradation. The degradation is not due to graining, so very difficult to see how the tyres are.
And interesting to note that GP2 didn't change the specification of tyres. They stuck with the hards and the softs, unlike Formula 1, which decided to get rid of the soft compounds Pirellis and go with the mediums this weekend. That was a decision that was made after the Malaysian Grand Prix, not, as a lot of people think, as a direct result of China 1 week ago. As Pirelli said, they couldn't manufacture 2,500 tyres in the space of 3 days. So it's a decision that was taken quite a while back. As Lima now blasts past Cecotto, and Colletti will want to do the same. Doesn't want to waste any time, having seen race leader and the man sharply emerging as the championship rivals. Giovese defends from Evans, who will have to go the long way round and maybe attempt the up and under. Dillman then has gone from the hards to the softs, so he's rolled the dice and he's going to have to make those softs last for 14 laps. That's a long time to make those softs work. It's a huge gamble for Tom Dillman and for the Russian time team, but it does mean they will have a set of the hards to run the race on tomorrow, and that really is the only option for tomorrow's race. I wonder now which out of Quaife-Hobbs and Leal will also choose to switch to those softs, or if they're going to throw everything at getting the result here today, as Rossi now jumps up the inside of Cecotto. And look at what's going on here. Evans is slow and everyone's bunching behind him, and Giovese as well. Colletti needs to get past. That's going to allow Rossi to catch up too. Such a difference in pace between all these guys. We're right on board with Colletti. He needs to get past Binder. Giovese, I should say. And Coletti does get past Giovese. So tough coming up to these guys who are out of sync, out of the pit stop.
It makes a big difference in terms of lap times, and that can shape up the race. You see Rossi's really close from Coletti now, really close.
And at the same time, Coletti's lost position to Fabio Lima. And you may be wondering, why isn't Giovese moving out of the way of these faster cars?
Because he's racing for position as well.
There you go. There you go. Now Giovese pits.
Leal in the pits as well, so that would be very interesting to see where he's going to come out.
As Lima moves on Binder. And he's pulled out a good gap. So onto the softs. And oh no! And I think he's got a problem, front right.
No, I think it's just stalled. It's just stalled.
Oh, and all that hard work ultimately comes to naught as Coletti blasts past Evans. Poor old Leal, all of that hard work undone. So now, Quaife Hobbs, how much longer can he hold on? He's now down in the 1:49. He's surely got to pit soon as Cecotto comes in. Lima just 13 seconds behind Quaife Hobbs last time round. And Leal gets going. So here's on board with Mitch Evans. And this is Mitch Evans being forced off by Giovese.
Well, it's not difficult to say forced out. I mean, Giovese was also forced out by Lima, really. So,
very true, very true. The very fast advancing Lima, yeah.
Well,
I don't think he even knew he was there.
He wasn't forced out, really, but I mean, 3 cars like that, that's just racing.
And off he goes. Ah. Now Coletti on Binder as Rossi goes for Evans. Binder making his intention to pit known early, as is Evans. Quaife Hobbs, though, race leader, is in. Lima takes charge once again at the front and has a big gap over Coletti, then Rossi, then Palmer. Now where is Quaife Hobbs going to come out? Let's see if his strategy's worked out for him. I doubt it, sadly. Riquelme, oh, and damage between Riquelme and Frins. The battle in the points, well within the points. And they've been having a good battle for a few laps. Damage now to Frins' front ring. Damage also to Riquelme, who goes off the racing line. And looks like a flat. Big damage as Quaife Hobbs battling with Dillman. They were battling before. They were both on the same strategy as Quaife Hobbs locks up on those softs. And Dillman gets through. 12 laps left to run here in Bahrain. Will those softs last to the end? It's going to be a hell of a job for these guys to look after them. And Quaife Hobbs locking up on his outlap is not treating them with the care and attention that they need to roll through to the conclusion. This is Mitch Evans' pit stop. Oh no. And that's lucky.
Really lucky.
That is so lucky. James Collado in to change from hards to softs. And look at how worn those softs are already. And delay on the rear right. So tough, just one man on the gun. Now here at the inside, Frins. Riquelme's already gone in for the corner.
I think Frins a bit optimistic. Hopefully we're going to see another angle there, but I mean, it looks like Frins would not have made the corner really.
He was carrying a lot of pace, wasn't he, to do that kind of damage. And both of their races compromised, and it's such a shame because they've been having such a great race together.
That's a bit of a... Ericsson's in P11, not far from Quaife Hobbs. So let's see with what kind of pace he can have in these last 9 laps, and maybe try to fight for a reverse grid position, or at least for points.
at least for points. There's Lima, race leader. There's Coletti. There's Rossi. There's Palmer. This is going to be an exciting run to the flag because there's Nasser and Bird. Behind them is Simon Trummer, who had a dreadful start. Then Quaife, Hobbs and Dillman. So the top 6 drivers really aren't split by much. 11 seconds at the moment splits the top 6. The top 4 are split by just 6 seconds. We've got a great race on our hands. Kevin Chekon leads Marcus Ericsson at the moment. Chekon in that final points-paying position, and if Ericsson, from stalling on the grid, can make it into the points, and looking at the pace he's got right now on those harder compound tyres, if those softs start to go off in these last 9 laps, Ericsson, you're absolutely right, Jerome, could take a reverse grid pole, and what a result that would be for him after such a disappointment.
Yeah, now at the moment it's not looking at the pace of Quaife Hobbs, who's a reverse pole. He's not dropping anything at the moment. It's 46.0, same lap time as a race leader Limer.
So Evans and Binder under investigation. Not sure what happened there. Oh yeah, that was that the contact, or was that where he got forced off? I'm sure they'll show us the replay. 9 laps left to run here in Bahrain.
Ericsson stopped really early though, so
yeah.
He's not on fresh tire, that's for sure. And that's Evans
taking Harry Anto. I believe that might be Binder ahead. We did have an incident between Evans and Binder at turn 4. I wonder. So Coletti is catching the race leader, currently at the rate of a couple of tenths a lap on average. He's brought the gap down to 2.4. And the incident that we've seen down there at turn 1, cars 22 and 2 under investigation for causing a collision, Frins and Riquelme. Frins appeared to use Riquelme as something of a brake. We wait to see something like that. One would imagine the stewards will give that a look after the race. So much going on here with just 8 laps remaining. Both drivers out of position. Not looking like they're going to score any points, having picked up that damage. Riquelme is 4 laps down, and one would imagine retired now from the race. Frins 22nd, and not looking like he's going to be close to scoring a point today. This is a nice little battle between Abt, Binder, Evans and Collado. It's only for honour, really, not really for points. Fighting over 13th, 14th, 15th and 16th places. That's something, isn't it? ART and Arden fighting over 13th and 14th. I think shows just what a turnaround in performance we've seen this year. In the early running, Racing Engineering impressive as always. Rapax up the front as well. Caterham looking great under Alexander Rossi. Carlin looking phenomenal with Nasser and Palmer, both of them on pace. And the new team, Russian Time, with Sam Bird and Tom Dillman immediately on the pace, immediately up front. Of course, we know they
do lack
an
a little bit
team
of pace, I think. Well, the pit stop wasn't great, but Bird had a great start, was P3, now P6, so obviously going down the grid as the race goes on, and I think they still miss some pace, and I think it's more the experience of Bird at the moment who made a good difference at the start. That's why they're in that position.
Amazing to see, isn't it? Rossi has made up a good couple of positions from pitting early, from not allowing those soft tyres to hit the cliff before they really started to go off. He jumped through as Binder is given a drive-through penalty for forcing another driver off the track. He gets past Mitch Evans, but will take that drive-through as Collado now tries to get past Evans as well. Now Evans has got a problem. Evans pulls the car to the sides, and is that a radiator smoking?
Looks like it.
Yeah, and that's disappointment for Evans. A second car failure of the weekend after an electrical issue with the loom. Saw him out yesterday as well. So a disappointing weekend so far here in Bahrain for Mitch Evans. with 7 laps left to run. Fabio Lima. Oh, and Coletti's run wide through the final corner. Be slow down the start-finish straight. Has lost over a second now to Lima. Rossi up to 2.1 seconds to Coletti, and has increased his lead over Jolyon Palmer to 1.5 seconds.
It would be interesting to see how Coletti handles his tires in the last couple of laps. And that's Quaife Hobbs
all over Trummer. That's the battle for 7th.
Quaife Hobbs and Tillman actually with these soft tires are lapping 45.3 much quicker than 45.3, 45.1 much quicker than anyone else on track. So
it's impressive. It's really impressive. Trummer's 12 seconds behind Bird. I don't think there's quite enough time if Quaife Hobbs gets past for him to catch up with Bird, but you never know. But as it is, you're right, both in the 45s. The guys ahead running 47s.
2 seconds a lap. So that's 12 seconds. And that's the...
You know my maths is terrible. Always has been. Could be done. But with each passing corner, less and less time to make it happen. Fascinating to see the different strategies playing out here today. Either start on the soft and run the majority on the hard, or start on that hard and make these final 12 laps count on the soft. And certainly, so far, Adrian Quaife Hobbs and Tom Dillman on the alternate strategy. The pace advantage sits with them. It's not going to net them a win. It will, however, net them a good position on the reverse grid and good points today. Trummer stands in the way of Quaife Hobbs in the 7th place finish. And in turn, if Quaife Hobbs gets past Trummer, it will be Trummer who stands in the way of Tom Dillman and a reverse grid pole. Down the start-finish straight, Quaife Hobbs tucked up, you can barely even see the car. That glorious orange and black livery of the MP Motorsports car will soon duck out, I'm sure, from behind Simon Trummer. Last minute, oh, and Trummer goes to defend. Quaife Hobbs will have to go around the outside, as he did with Dillman, but Trummer is wise to it. Dillman licking his lips, no doubt.
A drag through for Robin Fries for causing the collision, which is pretty useless as he's 22nd, but
yes, it'll just force him back into 22nd. So now Quaife Hobbs, I've got to say, Trummer's doing a fine defensive job here. You're not going to pass there. Big lock up from the Swiss driver.
He knows that losing these 2 positions means losing the reverse grid, so he's going to fight for that.
Absolutely. 9th always used to be the worst position you could finish in because you didn't get that reverse grid position and you didn't get any points. At least now you get a couple of points for 9th, but still, it's got to be one of the most galling positions to finish in a race, having fought so hard and to be just outside that reverse grid pole. But look, Quaife Hobbs is all over him, and Dillman is getting on the back of this as well. 3 into 1. Dillman makes the move now, and is Quaife Hobbs going to be boxed in? Quaife Hobbs knows he's got to get past Trummer. Trummer looks one way, then the other. Quaife Hobbs up the inside of him. Dillman back on the power early.
But he's in the slipstream now, so...
and he's going to try and pull out as well. Trummer's in the slipstream, Dillman's in the slipstream. Trummer trying to get past Quaife Hobbs alongside him into turn 1 and moves back onto the racing line, almost edging Dillman off. Dillman keeps his foot in. Can he get past both? He's going to get past Trummer. Is he? No.
That was a bit over the limit from Trummer. He should have left the space for Dillman around the outside.
So Quaife Hobbs takes the position. Trummer somehow holds on to 8th. Dillman lucky not to have been edged off and to have taken some damage on that car. But keeps his wits about him and lives to fight another day. And up the inside in the end, it's an easy move for Dillman. And that's reverse grid pole position for Tom Dillman. The Frenchman who won the reverse grid race last year. So talk us through this, Jerome.
I think the important point is, I'm not sure he even sees Dillman around the outside, to be fair with him.
And they're very clean.
Just massive difference in pace. I mean, it's 2-3 seconds a lap, so eventually they were gonna overtake him, but still good fighting from Trummer.
Rossi now with a good advantage over Palmer, and it's Palmer who's coming under pressure from Felipe Nasr. Sam Bird has been dropped from this battle completely. He's dropping like a stone now, nearly 10 seconds back from Nasr. But Nasr is all over his teammate Jolyon Palmer with 3 laps left to run. The Carlin boys will duke this out for 4th place. He was half a second better last time through, and look at that. Easy, easy, easy. But Palmer's back with him. Has to duck out. Lima's currently leading by 4.1 seconds. Last time round was a tenth slower than Coletti, but with 3 laps left to run, Lima's going to have to do something really stupid not to win this. And here's a replay of Nasr on Palmer.
Brilliant move. Obviously Palmer turned in, didn't expect Nasr to come in.
So Giovese there. And it's interesting that his teammate Binder, you remember when, yeah, it's this one, that was Binder, wasn't it, who pushed, no, that is Giovese. So Giovese pushed Evans off, but it was Binder who got the penalty for it.
Well, on the other side, he's on the racing line. It's not like he's really pushing someone off.
But that's what Binder got the penalty. Binder got the penalty for forcing a driver off.
I'm not sure, but in that case, what we've seen now, Evans on the outside, he's trying to go somewhere. Yeah. He knows he's going to be pushed offline there because he's offline. So
I just don't recall seeing Binder forcing anybody off track, but he was the one that got a penalty. Maybe. Well, anyway. We'll see. All will come out in the wash. 4.9 seconds now is Lima's lead over Coletti. We've got 2 laps left to run, and Dillman's not letting Quaife Hobbs go. This is going to be a nice little battle over the last 2 laps.
Is 4 seconds a lap quicker than Bird. I mean, if they could have overtaken Trummer a little bit earlier, for sure there would have been a fight between Bird and these guys. Bird is really, really struggling now with his tires.
49.5 last time round for Bird. Palmer as well, a 49.0. Nasr's in the 46s, Rossi in the 47s. I think we're going to have a battle for the final podium place on this last lap between Alexander Rossi and Felipe Nasr. Just 1.5 laps remain here in Bahrain.
Again, Bird there, the only driver lapping in the 34 in first sector.
So can Dillman get Quaife Hobbs? Can either of these guys actually catch Sam Bird ahead of them in 6th place? That would be an unbelievable result for these guys. But as Jerome's pointed out, an incredible pace advantage that they hold at the moment over Bird, who is dropping back. Look at that. You can see now almost Bird at the bottom of your screen.
That's probably just 1 or 2 laps too long to overtake Trummer. That will cost them that 6th position.
Ultimately, I think Sam's going to owe Simon a drink at the end of this.
Sam raised the pace a little bit in the 2nd sector.
So we're on the final lap. Rossi and Nasr, the gap was only 0.6 for the podium place. Dillman, a good exit from the final corner. Hunting down Quaife Hobbs, he's in the slipstream. Don't think he's close enough. Ooh, really late on the brakes, goes one way then the other, gets alongside but can't quite get enough alongside to be confident of making the move. Nasr, I can tell you, was 3 tenths faster than Rossi through sector 1 in the battle for the podium. the gap will be down to just nothing. But Dillman alongside Quaife Hobbs. Quaife Hobbs holds it. Oh, but slips a little wide. Dillman, can he tuck up the inside of him into turn 8? And now, too much wheel spin from Dillman.
He went straight on power there, a little bit too hard.
What a fabulous final lap here in Bahrain as Dillman goes for Quaife Hobbs. Your race leader, though, is Fabio Lima. He's looked untroubled all day. He was fastest in practice. He was fastest in qualifying. He was untouchable in the race. Fabio Lima wins from Stefano Coletti. Alexander Rossi through the final corner with Felipe Nasr all over his rear wing. Who's going to take third place? It's going to be Rossi on his GP2 debut. A fabulous race for the American. Nasr's 4th. Palmer's 5th. Where's Bird? Has he held on? Well, Quaife Hobbs has held on from Dillman. Bird, by the skin of his teeth, is going to take 6th. He does. Quaife Hobbs 7th. Dillman 8th in a reverse grid pole. Trummer 9th. And Johnny Cecotto in 10th with that final point of the day. What a great final few laps from Quaife Hobbs and Dillman, giving us a lot of excitement through there. And Rossi did well to hang on from Felipe Nasr, who was motoring through in the last few laps.
Great fighting, but great strategy as well from Dillman and Quaife Hobbs. Actually, the softs really lasted.
Yeah, 14 laps for Dillman. Impressive, really impressive. But what about Fabio Lima? What can you say about the guy? I mean, to be a second clear in practice, to be a second clear in qualifying, and to really, you know, to run the race he did today, run the perfect race, not put too much stress on the tyres, hold everybody at bay, particularly over that first lap. You know, a big fight with Coletti, but held that position, and if we're honest, never looked troubled.
No, I think Lima and Coletti honestly are the two drivers, two strongest drivers at the moment in the championship. Probably like Razzi and Balsecchi were last year, and it looks like it's going to be a battle shaping up between these two. Coletti did a good race as well, you know, last lap 45.8, so kept his tires alive. Lima was just quicker this weekend. And he's taking another good point for the championship, Coletti. So good race.
Great race. Lima then winner, Racing Engineering. Coletti 2nd for Rapax, and Alexander Rossi on his GP2 debut. 3rd place, phenomenal job. Felipe Nasr 4th, Jolyon Palmer is 5th, Sam Bird is 6th, and Adrian Quaife Hobbs 7th. Tom Dillman 8th, reverse grid pole, then Trummer and Cecotto. Behind them, Chacon and Collado. Behind Collado, Ericsson. So he changed so early onto those hards, it's going to be tough to make those work. Daniel Abt 14th, Rio Haryanto 15th, then Rosenzweigen, Bertin, Binder, Leal, kind of Massas Frins, and then Giovese, Evans, Riquelme, Varhaugen, de Jong not finishing. A word for Rossi as well, to step straight into the car, no testing. He raced on this track last, I think, 3 years ago. Only had a seat made on Thursday. How difficult is it to do what he's done today, having no understanding of these tyres or anything like that?
It's difficult. I think his situation is although Robin Freins had some testing in the winter, they're very similar situation, and look at what Rossi has achieved. It's actually really good. First race, first podium. He's held it together, you know, no mistakes. He had to hold on the tires and everything. So I mean, perfect race weekend so far for him, I think, as a rookie.
Amazing to think of him as a rookie, isn't it? He's done GP2 Asia, he did the GP2 final, but according to the statistics, we go on the stats, he's a rookie. Well, a man who certainly isn't a rookie, Fabio Lima, all of that experience coming through and paying enormous dividends once again in GP2. We've got, I think, as you said, Jerome, a fabulous championship battle shaping up between Lima and Coletti, already showing themselves to be the class of the field. Calm, mature, fast when they need to be, able to take the battle to each other. Another great race from Felipe Nasr, some wonderful overtaking from him today. And from Palmer, that first lap, you know, 7 spaces in 1 lap. Great stuff. I think those Carlin boys, if they can just find a bit more pace in quali, could be up the sharp end as well. But one man untouchable. Fabio Lima, pat on the head from Rossi. And a great result for Fabio, who celebrated his birthday just a few days ago. And this will be, I think, the perfect present for him. In all of that excitement, I didn't even see who got fastest lap. But if he got that as well, then a perfect weekend so far for the Swiss driver. And he's fairly used to this winning malarkey, as old Fabio Lima. He won the feature race in Malaysia a few weeks back. At that time, Coletti was struggling with his tyres and was picked off by Lima. This time, no such issues for Coletti. They've clearly got on top of their tyre troubles. And Racing Engineering in the past, they've struggled with their tyres too, and they're clearly on top of it as well. These hot temperatures out in Malaysia and Bahrain, guys clearly very much on top of it. But what on earth is going on at ART?
Yeah, I think, as you said, just Coletti and the guys up front, they've obviously understood their, especially Coletti, understood the issues they had in the past with the tires, and at least this race he was really competitive and actually the quickest man on the last lap. Now RRT, difficult to say. I'm sure they're going to put it back together because Calado's has shown some brilliant results and brilliant stuff last year. I think maybe, you know, sometimes it's just a spiral. You don't get anything right, don't get anything together, and it's difficult to get out of it, but I'm sure they will eventually.
How much do you think the teams will be looking forward to getting back to the tracks that they know, their homeland back in Europe?
For sure, it's always a reference point, so you kind of know where you're standing when you've tested so much at these tracks and you have some good ground to work on, and that's what they want to have now, to kind of understand the situation.
Three very happy gentlemen there. I've got to say, I thought it was quite fanciful of Caterham when they announced Alexander Rossi, for them to immediately say, you know, of course we expect Alexander to be a contender and to be fighting for the championship from the off, but what a performance this weekend. And of course, Fabio and Stefano, just great stuff.
Did you see? I wanted to get a good exit, and I put
just listen to this.
wheel on the curb in the last corner, and I lost it. That was my only chance to pass you.
Yeah, that first lap, that was it, wasn't it?
Then at the end I tried to do a quick lap, but it was not possible after that.
Yeah, but you got the quick lap anyway, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I tried again, but then the tyre was completely fucked.
I did
Okay,
45
I think we'll stop listening to them there and then. A great race then, Jerome. Your man of the race?
Let's give that to Rossi.
I agree. Great performance, and we will leave it at that and wait for the drivers to come onto the podium and taste the champagne and celebrate a fantastic race here in Bahrain.
Please welcome our top three drivers from the GP2 feature race today. In third position, Alexander Rossi. In second, Stefano Coletti. And our winner, Fabio Lima. And we can pause for the national anthem of Switzerland. Making the presentation to our winner, Nawaf Al-Zayani, Managing Director, Al-Zayani Investments, to Fabio Lima for first place. And in our presentation to second, Sheikh Salman bin Issa Al Khalifa, BIC Chief Executive, to second place for Stefano Colletti. And for our third place today, making the presentation, Hamad Amin, MMC member, to Alexander Rossi.